Hello and welcome to a new video. Live stream, I suppose, episode 8 of today's live stream. Thank you ever so much for joining me. And today, let's see what happens. Last week, we did go through quite a bit, different topics, different situations, and I answered your questions. So, just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, don't forget to put your questions down in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have, and also that side of things. So, today it's again just me, just like last week. And today I'll be talking about English teaching, online teaching, education, that sort of thing. So, should you have any comments, that would be great. We've got Mary here again. Hello, Mary. Thank you ever so much for joining me from Canada, if I'm not mistaken. So, thank you ever so much. Again, any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and we'll get started. So today is a very nice sunny day in Eastbourne. It's actually quite gorgeous. Blue skies, sun. Spring is finally here. Quebec, Mary said. Yep, that's right, Quebec. Okay, I'll try and remember next time, Mary. Today's very nice. After today's live stream, I'm going to be heading out. Okay, we got Takla Habre from Lebanon. Hello from Lebanon. Welcome from England. We got Amar here saying hello. Hello, pleasure to meet you. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. Again, any questions? Could be about English, it could be about teaching, anything from that. Hi from the US. Oh, wow. So someone's tuned in from the US. So hello. Right. Well, today, we're going to be having a look. I discussed briefly last week about the situation about English teachers in Sudan, and there was a bit of a development. Some English language teachers that work for the British Council and various other organisations in Sudan were, staying at home because of the difficulties that were being faced by that country. But fortunately, I suppose a bit of an update. I guess looking here, we've got two teachers escape, or two teachers nail-biting escapes from Sudan. And here, if we have a look, and I just zoom in a little bit, we've got two teachers, and they were struggling, and obviously there was quite a bit in terms of the organisation to get teachers out of the country, as it proved rather complicated. But fortunately, many UK citizens were able to get back, and that's great. Right. First question from Tackler. So thank you ever so much, Tackler, for your question. How can we find problems and solutions in meaning, form, pronunciation? What resources can we refer to? Wow. Right. Well, that's quite a broad question, and something that has really put me on the spot, I suppose. I suppose when it comes down to problems, in terms of meaning, form, pronunciation, you need to try and think about the students you're teaching, what their first language is. And so, for example, Korean. I'll take Korean students for this example. My chair's really squeaky. Gosh, sorry about that. So when it comes down to Korean students, when it comes down to pronunciation, they may have difficulty with pronouncing particular sounds in English. So the common pronunciation issues, L1 issues that occur could be the TH sound, the th, either the strong or weak form. Could be the P or the F or the B, or the not so much the T. Maybe the what else would there be? Other sounds. The F. I think I've mentioned B, P, D. Yeah, all these sort of consonant sounds, they have issues. And then there's going to be some pronunciation issues depending on the particular nationality that you're teaching, where they have some issues with vowel sounds. So for example, students that come from Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, they tend to have difficulties with pronouncing vowel sounds and distinguishing between long and short vowel sounds as well. Um, so you need to try and consider the first language of the students that you're teaching, and then trying to come up with solutions. For pronunciation, if I take the TH sound, which is quite unique in English and not used that often in other languages, I would tend to introduce this sound by getting students to creatively put their tongue between the teeth. So, particularly children, they love this sort of activity. So, when it comes down to the TH, I get them to put their tongue and stick it out and put it between their teeth and try and blow a raspberry or try and avoid blowing a raspberry, but trying to blow air through when they're holding their tongue between their teeth. So, and then I would introduce words such as three or mother, that sort of thing. Right. Now, in terms of meaning, when it comes down to meaning, you could have a look at a dictionary. And one dictionary that comes to mind would be maybe the Cambridge Learners Dictionary. So bear with me. Let's see if I can find it. Right. So if I bring this up at the moment, and so here we have the Cambridge Learners Dictionary. I really like this dictionary. And if I put in here, for example, let's say take, the common verb. Okay. Now, when it comes down to take, there's a variety of different meanings. You can see here we've got, take as in to carry, or take as in to go, or take without permission, or get hold. And so when it comes down to meaning, there's a variety of different meanings here with the verb. And if you're trying to analyze meaning, then you need to consider, okay, what sort of meanings are there if you're analyzing the verb take? And then there's also a variety of other forms, I suppose, take up, take over, and that sort of thing. So meaning, for need, if something takes a particular amount of time or a particular quality, you need that amount of time. So, for example, it's taken me 3 days to get here. Okay, so that would be the meaning. The form, okay, is it a verb? Is it an adjective, an adverb, and or a noun, and that side of things. So trying to analyze meaning, and there's going to be, take is such a big verb in this case. So there's going to be a variety of different meanings. Forms, again, is going to be predominantly a verb, or, you could start to look at phrasal verbs. And what sort of forms would you want to focus on when it comes down to particular lessons? And, if you're going to be talking about routines, for example, you could say take off as a phrasal verb. Okay, take off, we've got two different meanings, one for aircraft, or to remove a bit of clothing, so to take off a coat or that sort of thing, take something off. I guess, to remove something. So that's what I would recommend looking at. Now, yeah, my tutors would always comment incomplete analysis for meaning, form, and pronunciation, and that was always frustrating for me. Yeah, it can be quite a bit. Well, it can be challenging analyzing meaning, form, pronunciation, but it's nothing too complicated. So if we say, um, let's choose a different verb. Undertake, for example, something a little bit more challenging. So if we have a look here, so we got the word undertake, we got the pronunciation or the phonemic script, and again, pronunciation is something which is quite important to start to learn and incorporate. Um, then we got the past tense and the past participle. So again, form. You've got the meaning, and then a variety of different example sentences. And it's just trying to analyze that and maybe consider, how would you teach this? What sort of context would you introduce this form undertake? Um, so it's quite a it takes a while, but it's quite a good um, opportunity for you to practice, so you start to get comfortable with words and different forms, verb, nouns, adjective, adverbs, and trying to get students to become more comfortable themselves. So whenever I introduce a word to a student, I tend to say, okay, undertake. Is it a noun, a verb, an adjective, adverb? What sort of form is it, do you think? And normally they'll get it correct. And I say, okay, undertake is the present simple form. What's the past tense? Okay. If they're not sure, I say, okay, take, typical present simple form. What's the past tense? Took. Okay, what's the past participle? Undertaken. Yeah, so you can guide them through in that sort of way. So I hope that helps, Takla. Okay, right. Hello from Ireland. Do you have any advice for new Preply teachers starting out? I have ESL teaching experience in Thailand, but one-to-one online tutoring is new to me and quite daunting. Right. Well, yeah. If you've been used to teaching groups of students in a physical classroom, or online for that matter, teaching one-to-one, either whether it's face-to-face or online, can seem quite daunting, to use your words, I guess. Um, uh, if you're going to be starting out as a new online teacher but tutoring one-to-one, it's going to become, you're going to find yourself speaking a lot more than were you teaching groups of students online, or whether you were in the classroom. So normally in the classroom, I wouldn't be speaking so much. This live stream is slightly different, so I'm afraid you're going to listen to me. My apologies. So when it comes down to teaching online one-to-one, you're going to find yourself, compared to teaching groups of students in a classroom or online, speaking a lot more. So teacher talking time is going to increase slightly compared to that. And also the silence as well. And you're going to find yourself trying to interact with the student in some fashion, I guess, trying to entice the student to communicate to you. So, my first advice would be, don't worry if you end up talking more than you would do in a physical classroom with groups of students. If you're teaching one-to-one in a physical environment, again, you're going to be talking a lot more. But in an online environment, yeah, that's going to become more apparent. The next bit of advice that I would recommend that you do is to maybe And the good thing about Preply is they have a variety of different courses, and they have recorded lessons. So they have lessons that they've recorded. You can watch these particular lessons and see how students and teachers interact within the Preply environment. So there's that aspect of it as well. So try and watch as much as you can when it comes down to teaching online. See, try and find other videos and other teachers teaching online. You could have a look at my or search for my videos online on YouTube, and you'll see a variety of different videos where I've recorded my lesson with different students and different abilities and that side of things. So try to see how other teachers teach within an online environment one-to-one, because there's certain things that you could pick up, and certain things that you go, wow, Martin, he did this, but I'm not going to even bother doing that because it didn't work. I might not be a great online teacher myself, but there's something that you could do to see, or try to adapt or change or not do at all when it comes down to teaching online. So watching others can be quite useful, or observing recorded lessons in that sort of sense. The next bit of advice I've got when it comes down to starting out on Preply is to spend a bit more time on your profile, and invest that time when it comes down to your profile. So, for example, just bear with me whilst I get my profile up. So, one moment. um, Here we go. Okay, I've got my profile here. Let me share this as well. So, one moment. There we go. Okay. So, when it comes down to investing within your profile, try to spend a bit more time writing a bit more about yourself. You know, so have a look. Maybe make a few notes about, okay, what do I want to include? Okay, I want to include um, a self introduction about myself. I want to include something about my free time. Students might not read it, but they may read it. They may have a look at, whoops a daisy, they may have a look at sort of qualifications. So first thing, introduce yourself and your next, your hobbies and interests. Third, qualifications and experience that you have, and then your main focus. And then at the end, as you can see here, I've got a bit of a call to action. Okay, so something getting the students to do. So book a trial lesson with me so we can discuss your aims and objectives with language learning, the IELTS test if needed, or whether you need a tutor to help you with specialist areas. I look forward to meeting you soon. So a call to action to encourage students to book that lesson with you. So focus on introducing yourself. Next, if I go down a little bit more, so resume, try to include all sort of education, the work experience, the certificates included. And then you can start to incorporate different subjects, different sort of subjects that you feel comfortable with teaching, and try to focus on specializing and niching into certain areas, because this will give you a bit more clarity, give you a bit of a edge compared to just conversational English. So predominantly, most teachers will just focus on conversation English, but you want to do a little bit more than that. Okay, you want to maybe look at business English or IELTS, English for work, British English, English for kids, etc., etc. So look at including different subjects when it comes down to your profile. The next, try and choose a nice, interesting photo, something with a plain background, nothing too distracting behind you. It's very simple to take a photo nowadays with your phone. You just click, and then you can just crop out the background and add in a plain background behind you. And the next thing is to focus on your um, um, introduction video, and this is the introduction video will take a lot longer compared to all the other aspects. And when it comes down to your introduction video, try to introduce yourself, try to introduce your qualifications, your experience, how you can help other students, and have a call to action at the end. It's very similar to your introduction here, okay, about the tutor. So hopefully it kind of matches together. So I hope that kind of helps, Dylan. So I'm going to just show you my introduction video very briefly. Let's see if I've got the audio working. So one moment. Let's just stop sharing, and I'm going to share my screen again. Oh, yes, I did have my audio connected. Right. So let's see. Let me know if you can hear this. Welcome. My name is Martin, and I'm an English language teacher. I've been teaching English both in the classroom for over 16 years now and online for about 6 years. I've taught a range of different nationalities and ages from around the world, including South America, Europe, and Southeast Asia. Okay, so for the first 20 seconds of the video, I kind of introduce myself. I introduce who I am, what I am, and I introduce myself as a professional English language teacher. The students that I generally teach include exam preparation courses, as well as more general English conversation classes. So, and then briefly, the sort of students that I teach, just IELTS, general conversation classes. And now the next step is, what sort of qualifications do I hold? As well as the experience that I've gained over the years, I hold a CELTA, a diploma, an MA, and a Young Learner Certificate as well. And then introducing the various different qualifications that I hold. The next step is I'm also keen to learn about languages myself, and I'm self-studying Korean also. So, and then trying to connect with potential students. So saying, I know how difficult it is to learn a new language. I'm trying to learn new languages myself, and, trying to build up that connection before they click book a trial lesson here. Yeah. So I know exactly what it's like to learn a foreign language. I'm passionate about culture, languages, music, and travel. So, and then there's a short little aspect about hobbies and interests and other things that I'm curious about. If you're looking for a professional language teacher who takes their job and teaching seriously, then don't hesitate to book a trial lesson. And the one thing that I would mention when it comes down to an introduction video, you can either just do a sort of a talking head style video, but it's not going to be that engaging, So you could see just before, probably at the beginning, I've been teaching English both in the classroom. You can see here, I just set up a camera and just recording myself teaching in the classroom. Kind of gives a sort of idea to potential students who I am and the sort of things that I do. And you can see here, I set a camera up behind me whilst I was just working on my laptop. So just take a little bit of time thinking about sort of shots that you could take for what we call B-roll to complement what you're talking about. So if you're talking about hobbies and you say, okay, I play the piano in my free time, record yourself playing the piano. You don't need to include the audio of the piano, but it could just go over the top of what you're saying, and it just builds a bit more of an engaging introduction video, if that makes sense. Teacher who takes their job and teaching seriously, then don't hesitate to book a trial lesson. If you've got any questions whatsoever about my experience, my qualifications, or any questions about the courses that I run, don't hesitate to send me a message. So, if you're curious about booking lessons with me, send me a message and I'll be happy to help in that regard. I'll be more than happy to help you achieve your aims and goals with your English. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in class. And then a short prompt I'll see you in class, a sort of call to action. So hopefully that kind of gives you a bit of an idea. So when it comes down to building up your profile, starting out on Preply or other online platforms, then yeah, invest that time in building up an introduction video. Make it as good as you can, because when you come to having a look at a variety of other introduction videos, some tutors don't take or spend that time well in creating that video, and it can leave a poor impression for other potential students. So let me have a look, see if I can find a tutor. And let's say I want to study English, and say, right, and let me share my screen. So here I've got, I'm looking for an online English teacher. We've got a variety of different teachers here. And we've got Peter, who's a super tutor. He's taught over 2,000 lessons. And let's see what he says.
Hi, my name's Peter. I'm from London in England, and I live in Vietnam. I've been living here for about 5 years.
Wow. Okay. So from the start, you kind of get an idea about Peter and the sort of things that he wants, about himself. He's from London but lives in Vietnam, and that sort of thing. So it can be quite useful. So have a look at other tutors' profiles, see how they introduce themselves, have a look at probably some of the better tutors and their videos, get some inspiration from that, and try to put in your own spin or perspective when it comes down to creating your profile, Dylan. Yeah, you're very welcome. And we've got Catherine here. Thank you. Yep, you're very welcome. And we've got Takla, I guess, face red, heart shape, etc. I guess those were emoticons. So thank you ever so much for the emoticons. Really appreciate it. Right. Are there any other questions in terms of teaching, CELTA, Preply, anything else that you want to look at? Any questions about English, how to teach something, how to teach listening, reading, writing? Let me know in the comments. I'll be more than happy to cover a variety of other aspects of teaching. Good start so far. All right. Whilst we're waiting for questions to come through, let's see. Let's have a look and see what else there are. Right. I guess if you wanted to improve your awareness of teaching different courses, on Preply, for example, they have a variety of different courses. You can see I've done this course, 8 Steps to an Awesome First Lesson, teaching group courses on Preply, and that sort of thing. So there's a variety of different things. All you have to do is on the main application is click Academy, and you go to the main courses. And there's even a course here on how to create a profile that gets students click in. So yeah, have a look. Right, we've got another question here. Is it worth doing a CELTA? I've got BA English, PGCE, TEF 420 hours. I suppose, depends on what you want to do, Catherine. If you've got a BA, a bachelor's in English literature or language, and a PGCE in maybe English, then you're already aware of maybe how to teach, students from the UK English. If you've done a TEFL, like, well, let's say a EFL course, sort of an online 120 hours course, then that will give you a bit of an indication on what to consider. I think the way you could look at the CELTA itself is it's quite different to, the CELTA traditionally is a 4-week course. That's what I did. And it's very different to maybe a PGCE where you maybe initially study the background in learning and development, childhood development and learning. Whereas with the CELTA, it's just going to be a fully practical 4-week course, and it's going to be intense. Now, having taught in a public sector, in a state school in the UK, I suppose, the public school, then the sort of challenges that you face there will give you more than the experience required to do a CELTA, because the CELTA is intense if you're doing a 4-week CELTA course. And you'll learn some different techniques, I suppose, when it comes down to teaching students whose first language isn't English. I suppose when it comes down, and there's going to be a sort of connection between younger learners, maybe in primary or secondary, younger years in secondary school, where you have to try and develop that connection and rapport, and for students to understand what you're wanting from them. And so there's certain skills that you could draw upon in the CELTA course. But within the CELTA course itself, it's just developing the sort of skills that might not have come so naturally within the public school, the state schools, but there's certain aspects that you could draw upon from your own experience. And is it worth doing a CELTA? It depends what you want to do. Yes, you could. However, I've known language schools in the UK, if you're wanting to teach in the UK, English as a foreign language, they'll accept your PGCE. They'll accept your experience of teaching within the state system, regardless of whether you have a CELTA or not. However, it depends on what you want to achieve yourself. And, if you feel like, actually, I want to try and experience something different, I want to see what else I could do, then maybe, do a CELTA if you're curious enough. And perhaps you could specialize after the CELTA. In some ways, maybe you could specialize on teaching young learners, foreign students who are of primary age or secondary age, and then you'll be able to help other teachers and support them and do workshops and that sort of thing. So there's so much that you could do there, Catherine. I've got mainly B2 students on Preply. I think I might specialize and just do this group. I suppose so. I wonder what age that you're teaching at the moment, Catherine, whether it is, adult students or younger learners and that sort of thing, or is it a mix? For me, I'm predominantly teaching adult students, but I do have some younger learners, and I think it's quite nice and refreshing to do a variety of both. But anyway, adult. PGCE, BA. Depends on what you want to do, Catherine. But yeah. I hope that kind of gives you some indication, or not. Well, if it doesn't, then let me know. Anyway, so when it comes down to courses, you could have a look at different courses. You could click here. There's recordings as well. And how to teach a language. There's a new course here on how to teach a language. So for those those teachers who don't have the qualifications like the CELTA and what have you, try and do the Preply course and see how you find it. There's different recordings. What makes an effective tutor, recommended resources library, integrated pronunciation. Yeah, how to teach phrasal verbs. There's just so many. Let's see. Let's say trial. Let's see if there's anything on trial. Yeah, how to do trial lessons with beginners. How to sell your lessons to trial students, hooking your students into self-study, teaching great lessons, Preply resources. Yeah, so you could maybe have a look at trial lessons. So Dylan, if you're curious about how to deliver a trial lesson, either look for my video online on YouTube and watch me teach a trial lesson to two different students. I think it was an intermediate student and an advanced student. Advanced students can be challenging about, what do you teach, what do you cover, how do you respond to advanced students, because sometimes their English is very good and much better than what you would expect. But then again, on the other spectrum, beginner lessons, teaching beginner students, what do you do when it comes down to beginner students? And you might not be aware of what to do. And so sometimes when it comes down to trial lessons, try and have three main lessons or demo lessons organized. You could have lessons that are focused. I'm really sorry, my chair's so squeaky. I don't know why. I need to get some oil and stop it squeaking. But you could organize three different lessons, one for advanced, upper intermediate students, something slightly lower for intermediate or pre-intermediate students, and then one for like elementary beginner students. And you could organize it in two different ways. So 3 lessons for adult students and 3 lessons based on their level for young learners. And so there's that. And then the sort of preparation that you undertake can help you deliver a really successful trial lesson. But yeah. Any thoughts, any questions about trial lessons, or online teaching and how to teach a first lesson to potential students, whether it is with Preply or other online alternatives, let me know. But I suppose for me, when it comes down to first lessons, whether I'm teaching online through Preply or whether I'm teaching a potential private student online, I like it to break it down into 3 components. The first component or the first part would be getting to know the student and developing that rapport. So the student feels comfortable with me and they get to know me, and I can get to know the student. The second part is really aims and objectives of that particular student, what they want to achieve in the future, if there's any aspirations for exams or that sort of thing. The next, I suppose, the sort of a demonstration of potential lessons. So as I mentioned before, you could organize it in 3 different levels: high, medium, or low level materials. Oh my gosh, my chair is so squeaky. I might change it. The next would be sort of things that I include, so materials and that sort of thing. Introduce the sort of materials that I would include for potential lessons. And the final part, I guess, would be a sort of call to action. Okay, so I'm going to send you some material, complete the lesson, complete the reading, the writing, the listening activities, and then we'll focus on reviewing your answers together in our next lesson, and we'll develop your conversation skills on that topic so you feel comfortable talking about it in English. Yeah. And that's how I would deliver a first lesson, whether it's a private student or a potential online student with Preply. Anyway, materials wise, down to materials, and let me introduce some materials. So for me, the type of material that I like to include is Lingua House, and I find Lingua House so useful. It saved me so much preparation time. It's really good. They have materials both for English teachers and Spanish teachers. So if you're teaching Spanish, go for Lingua House. It's so useful. But for English teachers, on whether you're teaching privately or through various platforms, have a look. There's so much material to get your teeth into, whether you're teaching general English, whether you're teaching business English, whether you're teaching news and you want to look at news. You've got IELTS exam preparation, medical English, legal English, kids, teenager English, so many. And then there's a sort of different course plans. So you could follow a particular course plan, whether it's general English or business English. You can see here, variety of different lessons. So this can be really, really helpful, and it just saves you so much time. If you're teaching teenagers, they only have a sort of short course, I suppose. They've got speaking games, happy holidays, spring's coming, and then so much to have a look at. So yeah, I would definitely recommend Lingua House. It's such a great website in terms of material and can save you so much time when it comes down to teaching online. Less time on planning lessons and more time on getting those students, teaching those students, and making sure that you deliver the sort of lessons and get those students achieving what they desire to achieve. But right, are there any other questions? So don't be shy. Any questions, please let me know in the comments. Let's see. Now, whilst I wait for your questions to come through, let me have a look then. A bit more about news. Some news here. The British Council launch IELTS Ready Premium. Okay, so the British Council have recently announced IELTS Ready Premium, a new service providing personalised learning for IELTS takers. Okay, IELTS Ready Premium will give all IELTS takers free and unlimited access to their course once they book their IELTS exams. Wow, that's interesting. Never knew about that. Let's see if I can find out anything more online. So IELTS Ready Premium. And I'm just having a quick Google. So one moment. I've got it. IELTS Ready Premium. Let's see what there is. So here we go. So IELTS Ready Premium. If the students register for that IELTS exam, then there are a variety of different self-study activities for students to complete, tips and all sorts of things. So prepare for IELTS. How interesting. Wonder what else there is. So one moment. So on the other form, there's like free resources, Road to IELTS. I suppose Road to IELTS, if they're free, I suppose it's free if you book your exam. Free version. academic, who can access anyone. 3 practice test papers, 1 test for speaking, 19 interactive activities, etc., etc. New content, yeah. Let's have a look at the free version, see what they have here. So, free last-minute version. It's interesting. It's all new for me, so I'm going to be saving these and putting them in my favorites folder. So starting out, practice, advice, tutorials, practice zone, test practice. Resource bank. No. Sort of video to get started, how to prepare. The exam day, different video. Yeah, advice from candidates. The writing, speaking after the test, what to do. So that's interesting. Let's go back home. Progress report, IELTS on computer. Yeah, there's quite a bit there. Anyway, lots to get your teeth into. Right, how much time we got? Well, we just got over 10 minutes. So if there's any more questions, feel free to ask and post your comment. I'll be happy to see what sort of questions are coming up. In the meantime, let's go back to our EL Gazette, see what's happening in the world of English language teaching. Well, news. Let's go to news, Yeah, we got Stone update. We got growth mindset, secret Nottingham success, teaching EFL online due to COVID. Okay, so quite a recent article from the 24th of April, so less than a week ago. So a study in China reflects common themes teachers faced around the world. Chinese EFL teachers describe common challenges faced when the COVID pandemic necessitated moving from classroom to online lessons and how they were able to cope and maintain buoyancy. Like many teachers all over the world, the 9 teachers in the study aged 30 to 50 had to rapidly train and move to online teaching. Yeah. I suppose some of the challenges that I encounter when it comes down to online teaching is trying to maintain a sense of sanity, I guess. Trying to make sure that things are good, and make sure that I'm healthy mentally and physically, because if you're sitting down for hours in front of the computer teaching online, it can become a bit tiresome. So, after I teach for 50 minutes, I end up getting up, making a coffee or a cup of tea or getting some water and stretching my legs, getting some fresh air, go to the garden. And then I come back and teach for 50 minutes, then 10-minute break, and repeat, rinse and repeat. But yeah, when it comes down to online teaching, teachers found themselves with a lot of extra work, new duties dealing with WeChat groups. Interesting. Work-life balance became a problem. So yeah, you need to set a boundary between whether you're going to be teaching online and how do you have that sort of balance between, okay, at these times I'm working and at these times I'm not working. And one friend of mine told me that one way, if you're working from home, is okay, if you wear a shirt and you're teaching online and you're professional, is to get changed after your teaching. So if you finish your work, have the activity or the act of putting on a t-shirt and a jumper and some trainers and relaxing in that way. And so you have a clear distinction between your work life, although it's at home, and your home life, your family life. Yeah. Yeah, students and parents were under the same roof every day. That's true. Sometimes parents came to me when they could not handle their children. Well, we can all see the sort of activities when it comes down to when you're teaching online. Sometimes, when you're working from home, that your personal life will end up influencing what happens when you're working from home, of course. Right. We got another question. What other ways, sessions or webinars or books, etc., do I stay updated for after that I've finished past my CELTA course? Really good question, Tackler. That's a really interesting question. One to really have a look into. If you've finished your CELTA course, one way to keep up with your teaching and to keep up with your reflective process when you're teaching is to start blogging. And I would recommend other teachers around the world to English teachers to start a blog and to share their process, their early years when they are a teacher. So have a think about what you could do with your blog. You could think about, okay, in this sort of, this has been my experience so far. This has been my experience, and then it will give you something to reflect on. And reflection or reflective practice is so important when it comes down to teaching, particularly English language teaching. So reflect on the sort of things that you did, the sort of routines and the sort of things that you included in lessons. Think about what sort of things worked, what sort of things didn't work. And this will certainly help you. Now, if there's certain aspects of teaching that you're unfamiliar with or you're uncomfortable with, dive straight into that topic and focus on improving. For me, I felt so uncomfortable about teaching pronunciation and including pronunciation in my lessons. And it took me a good 10 years to build up the confidence to start incorporating pronunciation in my lessons. I found it so uncomfortable initially. I wouldn't even go near it, but now I kind of dive in, and it's one area that I always include with my lessons, whether it's online or face to face. So have a think about and reflect on what sort of aspects of English teaching are you unfamiliar with, or you don't really have the confidence with. If it's grammar, continue reading about English grammar, continue looking at the grammar of English. Think about how you would introduce different elements of grammar to students. This would certainly help you. And also think about, maybe vocabulary. How would you teach vocabulary? If vocabulary is something that you're unfamiliar with, how would you introduce the vocabulary, the words, the new language to students? What sort of context would you introduce new language in? That side of things. So that's what I would do. The next aspect could be about teaching or attending webinars as well. And most recently, there was the IATEFL conference in Harrogate, which has just gone. So if I share my screen here, you can see the IATEFL. I would recommend that you become a member of IATEFL. They have a variety of different special interest groups. You can join a variety of different special interest groups for free. So if you're interested in, you know, English for specific purposes, join that group. If you're interested in learning technologies, join that group. If you're interested in teacher development, consider that. There's so many different groups that you could join that focus on specific aspects of English language teaching. And then the next step would be, okay, I'm going to try and join a group and write an article. So you've got your blog, you've written a couple of posts about your progress as an English language teacher in your early years as an English language teacher. Share your experience, share your background to teaching and what you're experiencing at the moment. Another aspect of ITEFL is they've got the ITEFL jobs market, so you can have a look at the current jobs. So there's so many different jobs around. Well, not so many, but they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on where or what your interest is. So ITEFL is certainly one association to join, and this will help develop. And finally, books and resources. Have a think about, if you're lacking the confidence of teaching pronunciation, for example, buy a book about teaching how to teach pronunciation. You just need to Google how to teach pronunciation, and you'll come up with a variety of blog posts, but also particular books. And teaching pronunciation, Google the term teaching pronunciation book, and then you'll have a variety of different books available. And I would always encourage and invest on buying books that could be suitable and to give you the inspiration, the ideas of teaching. And one thing that you could start to combine is reviewing books that you've purchased and putting them into your blog post and sharing with other teachers new books that have been published or books that are slightly historic and things that you enjoy, and start to incorporate certain ideas and practical ideas and elements for your teaching or your lessons. So hopefully, Tackler, that gives you some idea of what you could do. And great question. Thank you ever so much. Right. Well, we're almost at the end. So any final questions? Great comment, Tackler. Thank you. You're very welcome. So any final comments? Feel free to let me know. Any final questions? Post in the comments. It'd be great to have your questions to hand as well. Right. Bear with me. I'm going to have a look to see. That's a great question. What's the most useful book you can recommend? Wow. Right. If you're starting out as a teacher, let me get you my favorite books. Let me get 3. I'm going to come back in a moment and I'll just go just over there and I'll be back in 30 seconds, 20 seconds with a book or 3 main books I recommend. Right. Really interesting question, Catherine. Now, when it comes down to grammar, and some teachers feel uncomfortable about teaching grammar. I would recommend maybe this particular book by Martin Parrott, Grammar for English Language Teachers. It was the first book that I purchased when I was starting my CELTA course. It was one of the recommended books to purchase, and I just went ahead and bought it. And, it's always quite nice to go here and have a look at this. There was a comment, I think, by Tackler earlier on about meaning, form, and pronunciation. If you have a look at this, it kind of breaks up the meaning, the form, and that side of things as well. With relative pronouns and various other things, and something you can refer to. So if you're uncomfortable with grammar, have a look at this book. It's really useful. Now, the second book I would recommend, and again, another book that was recommended for me when I started my main course or CELTA course all those years ago, was Learning Teaching by Jim Scrivener. Again, the most recent publication includes a DVD. So if I have it here, you can see the DVD. And what I like about it is that lessons have been recorded. And I think I mentioned earlier, if you're teaching online, have a look for recorded lessons, where teachers have recorded their lessons and uploaded to YouTube or that sort of thing. This book is very useful for in-class teaching. It looks at different ways to teach and how different teachers taught. Not all teachers are going to teach in the same manner, the same way, the same method, same approach. And this kind of book provides, learning teaching and how to teach. And it breaks it down into a variety of different sections. You've got the main skills of reading, the writing, the speaking, the listening, and also how to teach vocabulary, how to teach, how to get students involved, how to use rods and the sort of techniques and activities that you can include to make your classes really interesting. So definitely book number 2. Finally, if you're really interested in different approaches and methods of teaching, then this final book, Approaches and Methods in Language Teaching by Richards and Rogers. This book has been, highly recommended, and it's been published again and again. I think, what is it, the 3rd edition? Yeah, 3rd edition. And, it looks at the different approaches, the methods. It goes through the historical elements of teaching language. Like grammar translation, the main trends of language teaching, gives you a brief history, and then it looks at maybe the oral approach or the situational language teaching approach. Then maybe audiolingual, a communicative approach, content-based language, content-based language integrated learning, and task-based teaching. One thing that I noticed here was that there was a limited, one thing that I mentioned in a previous episode was about Teaching Unplugged, or Dogme ELT. And I don't think there was much in here apart from a brief mention. And so I was kind of a bit, maybe they could have included one component or one element of content-based language integrated learning. But yeah, there wasn't much in this book about Dogma ELT. But if you want to have a look at a variety of different approaches that could inform how to teach in your classroom, then this book is great. So definitely 3 books that I would recommend if you were to consider investing in books. And once you've got them, great, definitely get them. So hopefully that helps, Catherine. So great question once again. Right. I have one question, if you don't mind. Any opinion on how to teach English literature to students who barely speak English, and English is quite a foreign concept for them? Right. Okay. Wow. Right. Okay. If you're teaching students, okay. So let's say you've got a student and their reading ability is maybe quite good, but maybe their spoken ability is slightly lower. You could introduce some literature and you could try and get students to read. Well, actually, one thing that I did, sort of project, was you could do a reading project over a period of 8 weeks. You could say, okay, keep, and at the end of it, once you've read a short piece of literature, it doesn't have to be long. You could get the students to present about the particular literature or short story or that sort of thing, and you could get different students reading different short stories, and then at the end of their 8 weeks or so, they create a presentation and they talk about what they've read, the new vocabulary they've learned, how the sort of different characters, if there are any, how they felt, the story, the plot. And so it builds up their confidence about sharing what they've read with others in English. And it's trying to connect it in with, their reading in their free time and as self-study, and connecting it in with speaking and communication and presenting what they've read. So I hope that helps, Ahmed. But really good question again about reading. Right. Now, I'm going to call it a day here. So thank you ever so much. Brilliant. Thank you very much. You're very welcome, Catherine. And again, thank you ever so much for all your questions and all your ideas. Again, live stream every Saturday, 1 p.m. So I will see you next Saturday. There we are. So take care. I'll see you soon. Have a lovely weekend. Bank holiday Monday for some. So have a lovely bank holiday if you're not working. And I'll see you next week, Saturday, 1 p.m. Take care and stay safe. Thank you.